Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for the third and final part of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Alright, first question. What are your thoughts on nuclei overload training? I watched a video recently on training a muscle group every day for 30 days to near failure, and it seems to produce respectable growth. I hate this just because of the name. I've answered this before, actually. This one's come up before in the Q&As, and I'm not sure who started this, whether it's that Megan guy or Rashid started this nuclei overload training. These guys are just picking random scientific words that they don't know the meaning of and throwing it into training, and that's one reason I hate this sort of stuff. This is called high-frequency training, right? Training a muscle group or a lift every day for a period of time. It's called high-frequency training. That's all it is. Does it work? Sure. Can produce respectable growth, in which case you've got to deload at a certain point after. But like with everything else, the data is questionable as to whether really high frequency training produces more hypertrophy. I used to think that it did, but the evidence for this is starting to go the other direction, that it probably isn't. Now, overall strength, sure, because you can lift heavy multiple days in a row and spread the volume out more. So for, peak strength and maximum power, maybe. Maximum hypertrophy, I don't know about that, other than it gives you a lot of weekly volume. If you came in and did 3 sets of curls every day, that's a lot of volume. That's like 20 plus sets of curls every week. And you're keeping muscle protein synthesis elevated. So yeah, that could produce significant growth until you start getting connective tissue inflammation, and then you have to back down, deload, all that stuff. But again, it's just one more tool out there. And it's probably not in the long term going to produce really better results than traditional training. It's just another form of overreaching with a lot of volume, right? Which works, but it's nothing special. And I really, really dislike when people try to give these things these silly names, especially when it's people who don't even know what the word means. You're saying the word nuclei, the person who's saying this probably doesn't even know what a nuclei is. And the reason I say that is because he wouldn't use it in this context. It's not even the correct term for it. It's just high-frequency training. But, like anything else, it's just one more tool in the toolbox. There's nothing magical or special about it. It just is what it is. All right, next question. Can you tell me why you recommend overhead press with a false grip? It feels better and more natural, that is true, but isn't these benefits outweighed by the risk of dropping it? I know the risk is far bigger on the bench press, and that's why you should never do it there, but for me the risk of dropping the bar on myself seems too big. Thanks. We've already discussed why for some people it can create better comfort and better leverages, so that's not really the point. I want to address this risk thing. Why would your risk be any higher of dropping the bar on your head with this grip than with any other? If you know how to overhead press, you push your head in front of the bar after it clears the head, right? You come down, you touch your chest, and you press up, and then when you come back down, you're pulling your head back out of the way. Like, how would you drop the bar on your head? And if you did drop the bar on your head, you don't know how to perform the lift. This is some of the oldest training methods out there, and this is kind of why we need to make fun of the silly bodybuilding and bro stuff in the gym. We have decades and decades of Olympic lifting and people pressing 300, 400, 500 pounds above their head safely without dropping it on themselves. The whole idea of a bench press or a rack or anything else to catch the weight is actually a more modern idea, and people didn't get hurt because they learned how to press overhead. And here's the thing, where's the weight going to go? If you've got a false grip, your thumbs are out of the way so the bar rolls forward. You just push the bar in front of you, it drops to the floor, right? It drops to the floor. Why would it roll out of your hands? It's not like it's sitting there on the edge of your wrist. You've got your hands racked back and you've got a grip on it. And if it starts to slide forward, you just push your hands forward and pull your head back, and the bar drops and hits the floor. There's no more risk of this than there is with a thumb over grip. And even then, if you fail a rep or something starts to go wrong, you just pull your head out of the way. Again, complete ridiculousness. Learn how to perform the exercises, guys. This should not be a concern if you know how to perform the lift correctly. And like I said, people have been doing Olympic lifts with dramatically heavier weights than any sort of strict overhead pressing for generations now, and they do it injury-free all around the world in Olympic lifting gyms every single day without injuries. This is a non-issue. All right, next question. With the recent renewed talk in the news about the benefits of coffee, is it coffee that is beneficial for your health or the actual caffeine? Can a caffeine pill suffice if you don't like the taste of coffee? No, it's the whole matrix of the coffee. The caffeine has some benefits, but a lot of it has to do with the balance of antioxidants and everything else in coffee. Coffee seems to have positive benefits on glucose disposal, insulin sensitivity. Now, the performance aspects of it come from the caffeine, and that can improve your overall fitness because of the stimulant. But no, it's the whole matrix of the coffee, and you're not going to get all of that from a caffeine pill. And you know what? If you don't like the taste of coffee, that's why there's other things you can mix with it. And at the end of the day, if you don't like coffee, then don't drink it. It's not a big deal. I happen to love coffee. I drink it every day. But if you don't like coffee, you don't like coffee. I mean, the health benefits are marginal. They're there, but they're not world-changing, you know. It's just part of your overall healthy lifestyle. It's just a slight little edge in terms of things like insulin sensitivity. And like I said, there are other things you can add to your coffee to make it taste better. A little bit of milk, a little bit of artificial sweetener. Be good to go. There's lots of things you can do to make it taste better if you don't happen to like it. So, you know, not really a big deal, brother. But yeah, you do need all the actual coffee to get all the benefits. The caffeine is only one element of it. All right, next question. Max Chewning can squat and deadlift and bench big numbers but lacks muscular size. Isn't muscle size and the amount of weight you use related? Yeah, of course they're related outside of leverages, but here's the thing. This is something we always talk about with a few of these exceptional individuals, but people need to remember we're also talking about people not on drugs, and I think that's a big part of where these ideas come from. Guys who are on drugs are going to be bigger even lifting the same weight. That's the reality of it. And what you also need to remember when we talk about size and strength being correlated, I don't know, I've heard Greg Nuckols actually say that you can correlate lean body mass with that. With their numbers as far as these things go, but you do get these individuals like Max Chewning and other people. And here's what you need to remember. Size equals strength, but it's not the same from person to person because people have different muscle fiber distributions, they have different insertion points, different leverages. In other words, if you gain a pound of muscle in your pecs and your triceps, your bench press will go up, right? That is not subject to debate. And if your bench press goes up, you probably gained muscle in your pecs and your triceps. What you need to remember is that in different people, the ratios are different. In other words, gaining X amount of muscle for one person will absolutely add weight to their bench press. For another person, it will add twice as much weight to their bench press. And it has to do with things like everything from neuromuscular efficiency, muscle fiber distribution, leverages, insertion points. Different people will gain strength, particularly on different exercises, at a different rate for every unit of size they gain, right? And that's the difference between someone who's going to compete in a weight class in a sport versus people who are just overall strong. And that's what you need to remember. Max Chewning isn't actually that strong. I mean, if we want to say relatively speaking, compared to some of the strongest men in the world, he's actually really weak. We're only talking about this because of his body weight and size, so his relative strength is high. And when it comes to relative strength, one person might add 50 pounds to their squat and their bench press by gaining extra pounds of muscle, and another person only adds 15 or 20 pounds of those lifts. They both gain strength with their muscle mass. Different people will gain more strength for the same amount of muscle, but you cannot separate the two. In other words, no matter what those ratios are, they are there. So Max Chewning has more muscle now than when he was weaker. And if he lost muscle, his lifts would all go down. And it's the same for you and everyone else. Just remember that you can't predict in different people how much strength they will gain while gaining X amount of muscle. But within the same person, you can. It's the ratios are going to be different. But that doesn't mean that you can separate size and strength, because you can't do it. It doesn't work that way. A bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. But leverages and everything else still impact how much weight you can lift based upon the amount of force a muscle produces. It doesn't mean that muscle is producing more force. It just means that person uses those leverages better. Or in some cases, it's more force, purely because they have a higher distribution of fast twitch muscle fibers. But those fast twitch muscle fibers don't produce more force than someone else's fast twitch muscle fiber of the same size either. They just happen to have more of them. So an ounce of muscle on that person produces, 20% more force than an ounce of muscle on a different person. So hopefully that explains it a little better. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.